Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician, and this is Holomancer.
Today we have prepared a list of the strongest and most effective decks in the current standard and wild meta. To do this, we followed HSreplay statistics, then considered meta-analytics from vicioussyndicate and TempoStorm. We also tested a few decks, considered their statistics, and selected the most optimal versions for you.
Well done.
First, let's look at the top 9 most influential decks. Some of them have very high popularity, others have low popularity, but high win rates.
In general, these decks represent 60% of the standard ladder. This means that at least 1 in 2 of your opponents will be using one of these decks at any given time.
Now let's look at the most efficient decks. Murloc Shaman is the best shaman deck in the current meta.
Murloc Shaman is an aggressive deck. The deck aims to build a board early, then use buffs such as Murloc Warleader or Bloodlust to close out the game.
We found the best available build of this deck. This version costs 9,240 dust, and has a win rate of 58%.
Let's look at the archetypes' win rates against the other meta decks. Murloc Shaman has the best matchups against Mech Paladin and Cyclone Mage. Naturally, its worst matchup on the standard ladder is control decks. Since there aren't many control archetypes at the moment, Murloc Shaman dominates many games. The second dangerous opponent for this deck is very aggressive decks such as Token Druid and Zoo Warlock.
Despite the good performance, the popularity of the Murloc Shaman is only 4%. Among the other shaman decks, this archetype has 37% popularity.
In other words, almost every third shaman deck is the Murloc Shaman.
It's time to talk about Mech Paladin.
Mech Paladin is an archetype that spawned from the Boomsday Project expansion. The deck focuses on playing a select few mechs and then proceeding to buff them with powerful magnetic buffs so that they become almost unstoppable in strength. This playstyle plays right into the legendary spell Kangor's Endless Army by resurrecting previously killed mechs with their magnetic buffs intact for a powerful finisher.
Since the meta is shifting away from using sap and silence effects, magnetic effects are becoming extremely powerful.
This version of the deck costs 9,480 dust, and has a win rate of 58%.
Mech Paladin has the best matchup against bomb warriors. In general, Mech Paladin shows good results against all classes except Priest, Shaman, and Mage.
Also, the steadily growing popularity of Mage in ladder may be the main reason to not play this deck.
Third place is occupied by the Token Druid. This deck is a strong way to play the game, but most players are bored with it.
Token Druid is a broad archetype that has surfaced in many different metas throughout Hearthstone's history. The general playstyle of the deck often changes, but the win condition of the deck has stayed consistent over time. The main strategy is to use the combination of small minions and buff cards together to create an extremely powerful board.
An important advantage of this deck is the cost. It's only 2,960 dust.
The main matchups which Token Druid is dominant against are Secret Hunter, Murloc Shaman and Tempo Rogue. Its worst matchup is Mech Paladin. Other aggressive decks, such as Zoo Warlock Aggro Shaman, also do well against Token Druid. The popularity of this archetype is 89% of all Druids played games.
Despite the fact that Mech Hunter is the strongest and most popular deck for the class, we want to talk about Secret Hunter, since we have already reviewed the Mech Hunter archetype in one of our past videos.
Secret Hunter is an aggressive deck that wants to play sticky minions to continuously pile damage on its opponent's face. The deck also uses traps to protect its minions even more. Our version of the deck costs 7,940 dust, and has a win rate of 59%.
Secret Hunter has 2% popularity. Among the other Hunter's archetypes it has only 9% popularity.
Token Druid and other Hunter decks are good at outlasting the Secret Hunter, but with Cyclone Mage continuing to increase in popularity, Secret Hunter is likely the most underrated deck in the current meta. It's a great choice if you really want to bring the pain to mages.
Before we continue, and announce the best standard deck, don't miss our video about Easter eggs, hidden by the developers, and hinted at the League of Explorers and Uldum. The community managed to find incredible interesting facts, and put forth great theories before the expansion release.
You can also find some ideas for the third expansion, the link is in the description.
Warrior is the best class in the game right now. It's hard to argue against this, considering how strong both Control Warrior and Bomb Warrior are on ladder.
But nevertheless, Control Warrior has the highest efficiency. Specifically, this version of the deck has more than 60% win rate. The only drawback of this deck is the high cost of almost 13,000 dust.
Let's look at the archetypes' win rates against the other meta decks. Control Warrior will do better against more aggressive decks, such as Tempo Rogue, Murloc Shaman and Zoo Warlock.
Control Warrior is weak against more diverse decks such as Mech Paladin, Bomb Warrior and Midrange Hunter. However, its main opponent is Mechathune Warrior. Control Warrior has almost no chance in a duel with a mechanical god. By the way, Mechathune Warrior is my favorite archetype. I simply adore this deck. Its structure is very similar to Control Warrior, and most opponents find it difficult to determine which deck they are dealing with. We have already told you about this in our video about the most fun decks. If you missed it, the link is in the description.
Warrior players will definitely look back at the Rise of Shadows as a golden age for the class.
And now let's talk about the best decks for playing in wild mode.
Sorry, before you continue, I want to ask a question.
Yes, please ask.
What can you say about the new legendary cards? Did they find places in decks?
This is a good question, thank you. Almost a week has passed since the release of the new cards. Unfortunately, all the new cards did not find a place in the meta decks. The community is continually testing and trying applications for them, but has been without success. The only exception is Brightwing. This little dragon has almost 1.5% popularity, and found application in some versions of Dragon Mage. Even in this deck, Brightwing is not a key component, but rather plays a supporting role.
You can try this incredibly expensive deck if you already have an extensive collection of dragons, and if you are lucky enough to get Brightwing in a pack. Otherwise, we do not recommend crafting this card at the moment.
Let's finally move on to a wild decks and look at the top 3 most effective decks.
In spot 3 is Mech Hunter. It's the most popular deck for the class for both modes.
This Hunter deck combines the mech synergies of Goblins vs Gnomes and the Boomsday Project to create an aggressive, mechanical monster. Galvanizer and Mechwarper allow you to quickly play out a whole hand of mechs, giving Metaltooth Leaper a board full of bots to buff. If this doesn't help your automated army close out the game, Jeeves serves up a way to refill your hand each turn and keep the engine running.
It has a hyper-aggressive game plan, and therefore, Mech Hunter's weak matchups are decks that can effectively deal with early game board development. Odd Paladin, even Shaman, Druids, and most Warlock archetypes have that capability.
This deck has a 65% win rate.
In second place is Tempo Mage, which has a win rate close to 67%.
Tempo Mage has found an extremely solid place in the meta. The deck aims to quickly win board control through the use of cheapened spells. Our build uses Kirin Tor Mage to utilize free secrets. Also, the deck uses Alaneth, which allows the Tempo Mage to use resources and quickly gain them back.
Tempo Mage dominates most Warlock archetypes, and performs well against Kingsbane Rogue, and Big Priest.
However, the deck fails miserably against faster archetypes such as Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue and Aggro Druid, and struggles to burn out a resilient archetype such as Jade Druid.
And finally, in the first place is Odd Paladin, the most powerful deck in the current wild meta. This deck has the highest win rate, over 72%, displaying a nearly perfect meta score. In other words, from 5 games, Paladin receives 4 wins and only 1 loss.
In exchange of the limitation of Baku, the Paladin hero power is upgraded into summoning 2/1/1 silver hand recruits instead of just 1. Following this strategy, Odd Paladin aims to use its minions and buff cards to make efficient trades and ultimately go in for a lot of face damage to win the game.
Before we announce our traditional question, we want to compare the results of the 3 previous surveys. Thanks to your help, we can measure the level of satisfaction of players involving meta balance.
The first statistic of the satisfaction of players is immediately after Rosticon's Rumble's release, the second is after the release of Rise of Shadows, and the third is after nerfs, buffs and the release of new cards. As you can see, despite all the efforts of the developers, the current meta has lost 7% satisfaction. In general, this figure still remains high compared to the Rosticon indicator.
We will make sure to monitor the situation. Thanks to each of you for participating.
So, here is a new question. Do you think it is possible to collect the entire collection of cards without any money?
We created a YouTube poll. Find the button on the screen, and please vote.
Also, please let us know what your favorite deck is for laddering, and share the codes of your most effective decks in the comments.
Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for being with us.
And special thanks to Chris for text editing.
We will meet in new videos.
Good luck.